I said, David, you've got no idea what you've got. This is a superstar.
It's Makybe Diva clear. She's out by 2 lengths to Vinnie Rowe.
You're not going there to run second, third, fourth. We're going there to win.
But it's Makybe Diva in front of Laturia. Fields of Omar coming.
There was only one thing that could stop it happening, and that was me. And I felt the pressure like I'd never felt pressure. I rode a horse called Royal Code for David Hall and Tony Santic. I never met Tony until this day in the Australian Guineas.
Number 7 is Royal Code. Glen Boss, one of the favourites for the race.
Yeah, he was a very talented colt. If he was to win the Australian Guineas, would be worth, you know, who knows, millions, tens of millions.
All clear. Racing in the Cadbury Guineas. Zarek jumped well, Dash for Cash immediately headed him, and Pure Theatre got out fast, and Gordo...
And he was a funny colt. He was one of them colts, when you put him to the sword, that's when he'd give his best, but if he didn't, he just bludged. He just did what he had to do. And I'd never dropped the stick in my life, and I'd never dropped the stick after it, but I'd straightened up with 300 to go, and he was going to win, and somehow my whip just disappeared. I didn't know how I dropped it or where it went.
Went to the extreme outside, but Boss dropped his whip, and on his inside...
So I rode hands and heels hard as I could to the line, and all he was waiting for was hit on the arse, and then he would have just found. I got beaten, ran second.
Gordo after him, and Royal Code right out wide, coming hard. Dash for Cash in front. Royal Code at the 100, and then Toscanos the rail. Dash for Cash in front of Royal Code. He's holding him. Dash for Cash.
I was devastated because I knew he should have won. I come back in the enclosure. David Hall was like, he was livid, and I just said to Tony, I said, mate, I'm so sorry. I just cost you the Australian Guineas, and I don't know how I'm ever going to make this up to you, but hopefully there'll be a time. And Tony just put his hand on my shoulder and he said, mate, don't worry, there'll be another day. Now, I was to find out later on, if I come back in after that race and say, made up some bullshit answer and try to fluff it off, say the colt was no good, he didn't try, blah, 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 he said he would have put a pen through my name and I would never have ridden for him again. In 2002, I had a pretty horrific injury overseas where I broke my C2 and it looked like, you know, pretty bad. David Hall was a bit of a constant through that whole process. I was talking to him, and I had this great mare called Republic Lass that I was coming back to ride for Guy Walter, one of the greatest trainers I've ever ridden for. She beat Northerly in the autumn pretty convincingly in the Ranvet. She was one of the favourites for the Melbourne Cup, Caulfield Cup, and she was in the market for the Cox Plate. So she was my pin-up girl. So as soon as I come back from injury, I'm riding her, we're getting her ready, she's flying, she's doing everything right. And I'm basically thinking at this point, well, I can ride my first Melbourne Cup winner, you know, and it's her. She tragically had an injury, track work one morning, and she'd done a tendon. And she had to be retired. I ring David, he nearly crying, you know. I said, can't believe, David, I've lost my great mare and this is the one. And David says, well, don't worry, you can ride Fantastic, who you ran fifth on the year before, or he said you can ride this mare that I've got. I think she's pretty good, and her name's Makybe Diva. She won the Queen Elizabeth this year before.
Westbury, and here's Makybe Diva, knows where the post is, grabbed them right on the wire. Makybe Diva's got there in the last couple of bounds.
I'm going, yeah, that could be the one.
Makybe Diva at $15 with bookmakers.
I want you to come down and ride her work, and I want you to prep her up and see if she's good enough. I want you to ride her in the Caulfield Cup to see if she's good enough to win the Melbourne Cup. There was a number of riders putting their hand up. I was the only one that he was ever going to choose. We had a lot of trust, and he knew that she was going to get in with a lightweight. He knew I was capable of riding that weight, 51. So he said, I want you down here and tell me what you think. I get goosebumps talking about it. The Tuesday morning before the Caulfield Cup, hadn't seen her before, didn't know what she looked like, other than what I'd seen on a video. 4:30 in the morning, course proper gallops. She walks out, tall, rangy, skinny looking mare, but had a great action. He said, go 2,000 metres on the course proper. When you get to 1,000, start quickening. Every furlong you want to go a little bit quicker, and at the 200 I want you kind of near your top, but not, I want you to have a couple of lengths up your sleeve. From the time I got on her, I went, oh my God, this is a bit different. I started canning along, I thought, geez, her action was unbelievable. I thought, geez, very quiet on the ground, first thing I noticed. When I got her up to speed, I just really noticed that she just covered the ground with so much little effort. By the time I got to the 600, I'm going pretty quick. By the time I got to the 200, I'm going as quick as I've ever been on a horse, but I felt like I was going slow. Her action was incredible. She just covered the ground with remarkable ease. And she'd gone 2,000 metres solid, a good gallop. This is a strong gallop for any horse. Pulled up at the mile, she took two massive, like, blows of air, and her heart rate dropped, and her breathing come back to normal within 10 seconds of that. And I went, wow. Because her aerobic capacity was like nothing I'd ever been on. And I just went, wow, what have we got here? She wasn't even breathing. I was looking down at her and she was like, not even stressed. I trotted back to David and he said, on the clock, she's gone good. I said, David, you've got no idea what you've got. This is a superstar. That was the moment, got me.
13, Makybe Diva, Glen Boss.
My first ride on her under race conditions was the Caulfield Cup in 2003. She drew pretty wide off the track and we knew it was going to be not a very fast run race. Looked like it on paper, it was a slow tempo.
Racing. Strasbourg jumped well in time's eye, slow by a length. Rose Archway.
Instructions were just go back, ride it for luck. If the brakes come, the brakes come. If they don't, the big picture is the Melbourne Cup.
Going up towards the leading horses and Hugs. Dancer shows some pace on the outside of Strasbourg. Hale in behind them and then came behind these horses Distinctly Secret and Pentastic, trailed by Vicksburg, Rose Archway, Honor Babe. About 3 lengths further back in the field then came Sunday Joy, Grey Song and then Zagalia, Makybe Diva and 3 lengths to...
I rode her conservatively, she was fairway back, they didn't go quick, they sprinted, but she just come up underneath me and she just ripped through the line to run fourth, and from that moment we knew we were on the winner. She had 51 kilos in the Melbourne Cup that year. All she had to do was do the right things from that moment on, and she just blossomed in the next 2 weeks going into that Melbourne Cup.
12, Makybe Diva, Glen Boss. They're nearly set.
My first ride in the Melbourne Cup for Gai Wardhouse, I remember all the jockeys lining up and the national anthem getting played. I was so cut up. You stand there next to all these great jockeys, then it really hits you how big this event is, the massive crowd.
Field is locked away and ready.
My mare pretty well had no chance of winning. She won a Metropolitan coming off that. But I remember just riding down the straight watching the big screen, you know, like watching the winner, you know, and I'm some 15, 18 lengths off the winner at this point. But even though I ran last, I was buzzing.
And then came Bullwinkle, a long break to Count Chivas, followed in by Fewer Chosen, yes indeed, Electronic, Jean a mile back.
What's it going to be like when hopefully one day you get to win one? But you've seen the emotions of the jockey that won. That's the feeling I want to get.
Number 21, Champagne. Champagne with a stunning victory in the McKinnon on Saturday. Glen Boss.
To run second in a Melbourne Cup was an incredibly strange experience for me. It was Champagne. I was stationed in Hong Kong. Got the call up to come and ride her. She won the McKinnon by about 6 lengths. I arrived Monday afternoon. She's a pretty good mare. Laurie Laxton trains. He's confident. I look at her and I'm very confident that she can win. I give her a really good ride, exposed her at the right time. She's surging to the front and I could picture myself at the 200 metre mark. This is it. I'm going to win the Melbourne Cup. I get to the 150 and I've just felt her shorten stride on me. Get to the 100 and she's now starting to shorten up on me. And bloody Chris Muntz on Jezebel was inside. He just kept coming. He didn't quicken. He just kept going at the one speed and my mare started to slow. All of a sudden I had the cup in my hand and with 20 metres away from the line, it got ripped out of my hand. And I was gutted.
Jezebel tackled by Champagne now. They reach the 200 metres. The New Zealand mares together. Jezebel and Champagne. Yorkshire pushing through from Toffin's Melody. Persian Punch. Champagne from Jezebel. Champagne and Jezebel kicking back. Jezebel kicks on the inside. Jezebel beat Champagne and New Zealand.
My first thoughts were for the mare because she actually she went wrong. Not many people know. She actually went wrong that day. She broke down. But her determination and her heart got it to the line, and then I got into the jockey's room. I remember I snapped my whip, I got my helmet, threw it up against the wall, and I actually went into the bathrooms and was physically ill. I vomited and vomited. Oh, it gets me now. Flew back to Hong Kong, and I was off for about 3 weeks because I was having nightmares. Like, what could I have done more? What could I have done different? And David Hayes is training there, obviously, and David could see I was struggling for a while, but he didn't know why, but he could see I wasn't right. We were at track work one morning and I'm sitting beside him and he could see I'm blank, a little bit blank. And he said, "What's up, boss? You don't look like you're right." And I said, "You know, David, I'm actually struggling. I've been struggling with this race. I haven't slept properly. It's been on my mind. I'm having nightmares about it." He said, well, let's have a chat about it. What do you think went wrong? I said, a lot went right. I rode it well. I exposed her at the right time. Not many people know that she broke down, and he didn't know. He said, well, Bossy, if that was my horse and I owned and trained it, I reckon you give it, I've seen a replay and I've seen it live. I reckon you rode it unbelievable. You give it every hope. Stop beating yourself up, basically. And as soon as you said that, because David's a peer of mine, like he's someone I truly respect. And so for someone that has that holding in my brain to say that, validation that, you know, stop it, you give it every chance. And it was like, I just shed my skin. It was gone, all that feeling, the anxiousness. But that's how it cut me up that much. Getting beat in a Melbourne Cup when you think you've won it, it just tears you apart.
At the 150, he's 3 lengths in front of Distinctly Secret Hugs Dancer, Makybe Diva.
Well, after she ran such a slashing race in that Caulfield Cup of that year, obviously the object is now, let's get her to the Melbourne Cup. She's got 51 kilos, and I could tell that she was blossoming. You know, she just looked good. The final piece of work was outstanding. Tony had organised a guard with a gun to look after her. This is how much we'll get into it. He'd backed her at the call of the card to win so much money. So we had a meeting on Monday night at David Hall's stables and his loft. And his loft virtually overlooks the 600 metre mark when you can look out the window. And we're having a real good chat about how we're going to win the Melbourne Cup. I knew I had the animal underneath me, I just knew. There was a couple of sentences that David said to me. He said to me, see that thing over there? And I looked out the window and I kind of didn't really, I'm looking at the track. He said, see that 600 metre mark? He said, when you get there tomorrow, there's one thing you have to do. He said, keep your powder dry and count to 10. That's all I want you to do. Because we knew how much speed she had. Sectionals don't lie. Her sectionals in the Caulfield Cup were of an Cox Plate sprinter. Like, that's how quick she was off the mark. And I knew that with her, she has no lag time. She goes from that to top speed in about 2 strides. It's unbelievable. You can give away start knowing that you're going to make up 6 lengths like that. Good as gold, I'll do that. And that was the plan. That was the plan to win the Melbourne Cup.
12, Makybe Diva, Glen Boss.
I can take you through that 2003 Melbourne Cup basically step by step. As a rider, your job starts when you get on them. You've got to keep them calm. You know, there's a massive crowd and you walk down the roses. It's noisy. You've just got to keep their heart rate low and keep your heart rate low as possible because they feel in your energy all the time. So I'm just super relaxed. She just goes down the barriers like this. She's going to muster cattle or something. It's just ridiculous. She just cruises down there. She walks in the barriers and she just stands there and you can just feel how loose she is underneath. You're just thinking, oh my God, this is just not happening, you know, because I'm already thinking I'm going to win at this point.
They're racing immediately.
She breaks well and I really just wanted to be on the fence. Got to the winning post at the first turn. I'm on the fence. The tempo of the race was, I could feel the tempo was just beautiful. It was just a nice, steady tempo. And she's completely off the bridle at this point. And I used to talk to her. I called her mum the whole career. And every time I'd feel I'd get a little bit on the bridle or do something, I'd say, woo, mum, and one ear would come back straight away. She was always waiting.
They're followed by Debbit and Turmeric, a length and a half further back in the field, Makybe Diva. And then
get to the mile, nothing's changed. Tempo's beautiful. Get the 1200, it's like, okay, now this is when you start to come on board as a jockey in these races. The first third of the race, you've just got to get that part right. The second third is all about relaxing and feeling the tempo, just making sure you're doing the right things. And then the last third of the race is like you come on board because you're starting to scan, you're looking miles ahead of you to see, okay, what's going better, what's going bad, you know what I mean? You're trying to navigate a path. Get to the half mile, I give her a feel, like you just feel them like that so that they know, okay, we're getting ready. And all of a sudden they can feel them come up underneath you, like the screws start to tighten up a bit, you know? So I thought, okay, she's ready. I get to 600, I really haven't done much yet. Once I sort of got to the 400 metre mark, I'd picked my way through most of the field and I still hadn't moved. To look at her at the 1,000, and then if you were to look back at the leaders and then scan back like at the 600 metre, you missed her because you expected her to be, and all of a sudden she's right there and I haven't moved. And I thought, well, 51 kilos, when I let this thing go, it's going to be a jet. So I pop her out, expose her, and she just lets go, like, you know, as we expected her to do. and she just ripped away.
Frightening with Makybe Diva going for a run. She's finishing hard. And wider out now, Fantastic is joining in. And She's Archie runs on, but Makybe Diva shot away. She's out by 2 lengths to She's Archie.
You had this moment where I think you're on some of the best bit of real estate in Australia, Flemington, that you just, and you can hear the crowd and you know you're going to win your Melbourne Cup, and it's just an incredible experience.
Makybe Diva in front. She's Archie tries hard, but Makybe Diva wins the cup. She's Archie second. Photo third, either Fantastic or Joe.
It's weird because you go past the line for your first one, and then your brain starts playing tricks on you. It's almost like, did you do this? Did this just happen? Like, so there's a moment where you quite don't believe it's actually happened. And then you're pulling up down there and Letzi comes and joins you, you know, and then it all starts to really sink in. You know, the emotions start coming out.
Oh, mate, this is very special for me because David Hall, I mean, what, I can't give that bloke enough credit. And I lost a race here on Royal Coat for Tony a couple of years ago. And I dropped my stick on the horse. I probably should have won the race. And he stuck solid, you know.
That's when that's when you know it's real. And, you know, he pulls up on banjo and he starts talking and say, "Bossy, you've just won your first Melbourne Cup," and then it's just it all just comes real.
Highly talented mare. Welcome back, number 12, Makybe Diva, Glen Boss, and David Hall.
The feeling of not long before getting one ripped away when I thought I was going to win, and then you can just flip that all on its head. The feeling of actually knowing that you've got one. Every sinew in your body is just going bang, 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 you know. And you start reflecting on your journey, you know, like, oh my God, you know, her Caulfield Cup run, and, you know, we had this plan, and, you know, you're thinking about Tony and Christine Santic, and you're feeling it in David. It felt like, you know, you had a plan and it was perfect, and you pulled it off. It's a sense of relief as well. You've got a Melbourne Cup under your belt all of a sudden, because you want to be a Melbourne Cup winning jockey, you know. So there's that sense of relief, and then there's euphoria, and then you're thinking about her. This great athlete that's underneath you that's just carried you to win your first Melbourne Cup. And so there's a lot of emotions and there's a lot of thoughts. You know, you think about yourself as a kid growing up in Caboolture and riding horses, and you think about your first winner. You know, there's so much things. People have asked me so many times what it was like for me to win, and it was true for every one of them after that. It was like watching a slideshow. You know, when you push a button and another slide comes, but it was like watching 100 slides. Like it was, but because there were so many memories and thoughts were coming in and out of my head, that it was like complete overload. But I could recognise every moment.
Tui's new Melbourne Cup winner for the 143rd running. It's Makybe Diva and Glen Boss.
David Hall got a call up to go and train in Hong Kong, and he took that up. She was transferred to Lee Freedman. She was introduced to Mark Dell property down at Mornington Peninsula, and I think I'm very true in saying this. I think this was the making of her. She liked company, she loved that environment, she was in a paddock every day. She didn't have such a good autumn. She got beaten in the Australian Cup. She just wasn't quite right in that autumn. There was a real thought that Damien Oliver would replace me, even though I'd won the Melbourne Cup on her. But Tony, he stood solid. He was so solid. He said, no, when the horse comes, so does G Boss. Lee said, okay, Bossy, I need you down here because you know more about this mare than I do. I need you down here and you need to be part of the team. And so I based myself down here for about 7 weeks for the spring. What I did see from her in the autumn of 04 to the spring, under Lee Freeman's care, I knew that she had this incredible aerobic capacity. I knew that she had this amazing motor, and she had it all. She had this frame, but she didn't have the muscle. I could see what she was going to do, and when I'd seen it, I went, wow, what have we got here? Because now it was coming, all was coming together, and she'd already won a Melbourne Cup. I didn't realise the journey we were going to be on, but I knew that we weren't finished.
Ladies and gentlemen, almost 50,000 pairs of eyes turning to the mounting yard here at Classic Caulfield now as the runners enter the mounting yard in preparation for the $2.5 million Carlton Draft Caulfield Cup.
2004 Caulfield Cup for Makybe and myself that year was really weird. It was basically, we were using that race to get to the Melbourne Cup. And I can say that now, you know, she was not ready. Physically, she wasn't ready. And this was the stepping stone towards the Melbourne Cup.
Here's Makybe Diva. In she goes. Melbourne Cup winner last year. She ran a great race in the Caulfield Cup.
She drew 17, and we knew it was a race that was completely void of speed. And we knew our main rival, who we'd come up against a few times, Elstrom, would probably go to the front, be beautifully ridden by Nash Ruler, as he's a great tactician. And we kind of thought, well, we need to go back, and we got no choice. Can you think about going to a Caulfield Cup thinking, well, if we have to sacrifice one, this is the race?
Third from last then came Makybe Diva, Distinctly Secret, and Yakama is last of all.
I knew if I busted her up that day, we were going to have to play catch up to get to the Melbourne Cup, because she went from 51 to 55 and a half, do you remember? So now she's a mare with 55 and a half. I rode her back, they walked, and I remember getting to the 1,000-metre mark, and I'm a fair way off them, but they're still walking. And I just pulled her out, and I thought, well, I'm just going to let you come home. And I know you're going to get beat, but it's going to be a nice gallop from the half mile home. She went wide, 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 and I think I was the widest runner. And she just kept plucking them off. And I thought, my God, I let her go. And I'm thinking, she's going to win. This is physically impossible. The time she had to run and the ground that she covered to get close to Elstrom, and she levelled up to him almost, and then a run ended with about 50, 60 metres to go. She peaked, and she went from surging to win to just being held, and Elstrom held her.
Grey Song is putting in a run. Elstrom at the 200, the leader from Makybe Diva. Grey Song winning bell and ain't seen nothing. It's Elstrom in front, 100 left to go. The danger, Makybe Diva the outside. Elstrom in front. Makybe Diva's desperately trying hard. Elstrom hanging on and won the Caulfield Cup.
And I come back with my eyes like dinner plates. It just went, wow. Of all of her runs in her career, that was one of her biggest runs. And then what she did after that Caulfield Cup was nothing short of spectacular. And we knew we had arguably, well, he was, not arguably, Vinnie Rowe was rated the best 2-miler 2 years in a row before he come here. He come here with impeccable form. Dermot Weld, arguably the greatest trainer in history, and arguably the greatest trainer that can travel a horse. Pat Smullen, at the peak of his powers, the great Pat Smullen, God rest him, rest his soul. So we had Vinnie Rowe in our backyard at the peak of his powers. So this was a really big stumbling block. Now he had 58 and I had 55 and a half for a mare. That's not a big deficit to give him. And typical Melbourne that day, it was a beautiful day. It started out, but there was suggestions of storms coming, and they said late in the afternoon storms. I remember we went into the stewards' room and they were showing us this weather, the weather bomb, and it was purple and it was coming through Geelong, and they said this is coming, it'll be here in about half an hour, 45 minutes. And it come. We got that windstorm first, and then the temperature dropped like dramatically, and then we got that massive rain come through. And I just remember it just turned the whole day on its head. There was a sea of, women getting turned upside down. There was a sea of fake tan. Everything just went to shit, right?
This horse, I think conditions are just made for him.
It's out of everybody's hands now. It's up to the jockeys now.
Now Vinnie Rowe's now in his backyard proper because he's a great wet tracker. And my whole plan for the day had got turned on its head too, because I had a plan of how I'm going to ride. I'm basically going to try and track him, you know what I mean? I'm going to track him everywhere. This is my plan. And now that got turned on its head because he's an incredible wet tracker. And she's a good wet tracker too, but I didn't know how good at this point.
What would Lee Friedman be thinking at this present point in time?
Well, he'd be thinking he's got the best stayer in the race. He's got the current champion. He's got the horse that everybody has to beat, and that's a good position to be in rather than be here hopeful that you can win the race. He's got a great chance, and hopefully that she'll get through the ground and Bossy will ride him as good as he did last year.
I said to Lee, I've just got to ride her like I'd ridden in a Caulfield Cup. I've got to save every possible inch on her, and I'm going to ride her so cold, knowing that she can still sprint on a soft ground. And I actually went out and walked the track before the Melbourne Cup, and it was chopped up, but the inside was still just as firm. Because of the rain come late, the base was still there. Looks shitty on top, but the base of the actual the Flemington track was still there. When I procked it, it was still hard on the inside. And I knew if I stayed to the inside, it's no disadvantage. Even though it looked worse, it was no disadvantage.
Quarter, I would imagine, and Bossy will have to weave his magic through the field again as he did last year. But if any man can in a Group 1 race, it's the Boss man.
Got in the barriers, it's like 10 degrees, it's steam coming off him. You know, she just stood there like she always did, just waiting for the command, waiting for the barriers to break.
Racing in the Emirates Melbourne Cup.
I drew kind of middle. She broke. I got the winning post the first time and I'm on the fence again. The tempo of the race was pretty beautiful, you know, like nice and sedate. Once again, I just put her into idle mode and she just idled the whole way. I got to the 1200 metre mark, going into the 1000, and I looked over my shoulder. She was as cool as a cucumber. There was one horse and another, and there was Vinnie Rowe outside me. And I'm thinking, wow, here he is. You know, and he was jogging, right? As we're going towards a half mile, he starts to make his move, because Vinnie Rowe was a horse that really needed, you know, throw coal on the fire, stoke him up, get him his one pace teacher, but he quickens every furlong from the 1000 and he just grinds everyone into the ground. And I'm doing the calculations at this point and I'm thinking, okay, he's going to have to go around at least 14 to 16 horses, because I knew where his path was going. And at some point he's going to be 8 wide. I just knew it. I'm going to just ride this and I'm going to stay on the fence and I'm going to save so much ground on him. And that's my only way I'm going to beat him. I had to go around one horse the whole journey. And I popped out, went around that horse, went back to the fence and just let her come up underneath me. And as I come out and I exposed her at the sort of 315 metre mark, all of a sudden, here he is, Vinnie Rowe, right? He's circled the field and he's basically met me, you know, like he didn't actually get like past me, but he was there to pass me. And I let her go and then she come out a little bit and she give me that kind of length and a half, like bang, like that real quick. And then she just held that margin and Vinnie Rowe couldn't match motors. Like he'd done too much work, you know. He'd got there and I still had that little bit of energy and she held into that length and a quarter margin, like basically the whole way down over the last 200 metres, and there's some great vision, you know. She's covered in mud.
300 the leader. Here comes Vinnie Rowe. Elstrom coming with him. Makybe Diva. She's got right up on the inside, Makybe Diva. She's hit the front now from Vinnie Rowe and Zasman. It's Makybe Diva clear. She's out by 2 lengths to Vinnie Rowe. It's Makybe Diva clear, and she's going to do what no mare has ever done. Makybe Diva wins it again. Vinnie Rowe second. Zasman.
And now we've gone to somewhere else, right? Here's a mare that's won 2 in a row and she's gone up in the weights. Now we are on a journey. This is where I really had a sense of this is huge.
For Glen Boss and Lee Friedman, a history-making performance at Flemington.
You know, it's just one of those frigging things again. I felt when I got the 2,000 metre mark, I thought, I'm in that same spot again. I just felt so good. And she just felt brilliant underneath me. And when I was getting to the half mile, honestly, I just felt like I was in that zone again. She just gave me everything she had. What a mighty mare.
I will never forget the conversation after it all was said and done. You know, you come back and, you know, you do the press talk and all that, and I was packing my gear up and I was alone and Dermot come up to me and like honestly, he just come up to me and said, mate, congratulations, my horse was perfect. He was ridden perfect. We had a plan. It was executed to the perfection. He said, your mare was just too good. She's now the best horse in the world. I went, oh. Like that was just like, wow, what a moment. Dermot Weld come up and said that. It's like, man, that's unbelievable. So yeah, and now that was justified. And she was the best 2 mile in the world, you know. He said, mate, hats off.
Winning Bell in front. Elstrom can't win. Makybe Diva's coming after Winning Bell. 150 metres to go. And the Grand Mare raced up on the outside. Winning Bell fights back. Makybe Diva's ahead in front though. She pulls clear. She's a wonderful mare. What a champion.
The plans for the 3rd Melbourne Cup weren't even in the pipeline. She had an incredible autumn. She won the Australian Cup, still holds the record in the Australian Cup. She smashed all these records on a firm track. And then she went up and smashed Grand Army in the BMW. Like, she's in this different stratosphere now. And then she's public property. And obviously Tony's a massive tuna fisherman. He sells a lot of tuna to Japan and he wanted to take her there to the Tenno show. The problem is, we get to Japan, she's on her own. She's locked in a box. She's got no company. We had to work her on one track. It was a sand track, but it was really coarse sand and it was so deep. So her bulbs on her heels were blistering. So we had to wrap them up, and she was sore. So she's fretting, she's sore, she was losing weight. She has a lead-up run on a rock-hard surface in Japan. So here she is, she's rocking up in the 10-0 show, run over 2 mile on another rock-hard track. And I'm thinking, this is not good. This could be it. To her credit, she raced that race off the bridle the whole way, over 2 miles. This is not her, because she was that tender. And she struggled up the straight and she ran incredible. This just shows the incredible strength she had. You very rarely see these athletes that do that. Is that all you got, basically? Is that all you really got? She's basically saying that to us. Is that all you got? Because I'm better than that. It's just amazing. Lee devised a plan. He said, okay, Bossy, the spring, to make her the greatest that we possibly have ever seen, to have her spoken about in the Kingston Towns, you know, the far laps, like the greatest, right? He said, there's only one race we need to win, and that's the Cox Plate, because then she is a true champion. Our greatest race is the Melbourne Cup, but our best race is the Cox Plate. It's weight for age, it's littered with champions. I said, beautiful, I've never won a Cox Plate. How do we go about doing that? And he said, leave that to me. Don't think about Melbourne Cups. She's got 58, and if we don't go there, she's done it already. We don't need to go there. We need to win a Cox Plate.
Let's see what Australia's champion racehorse can do. On her resumption, there she is, going to the gates as we go up to our caller.
He got her to win first up over 1400, one of the best training performances I've ever seen. I never rode her. Stephen King was... He warmed the saddle for me when I couldn't ride her. You know what I mean? He was great.
Makybe Diva with a flashing run. They're charging home. Rigorola in front. The great mare Makybe Diva's going to do it. Yes! Well, mighty.
She got beaten second up at Moonee Valley over a mile. It wasn't her race. We knew that wasn't her race. And then was unbeaten from that point onwards. The lead into the Cox Plate, she knew her job so well. She had it perfected at this point. And my job simply became not to disappoint her. Like before a big majors, I would have great dreams, I'd be winning, I'd fall off, I'd win, I'd be backwards, I'd win. I never got beat, you know, because that was part of my process, you know. I knew I'd done all the right things. I just had to go out there and win. That night before the Cox Plate, I got beat every time. It was ridiculous. I never slept. I had nightmares. I woke up in the morning, I was shocking. I was literally shocking. And I was later to reflect and learn why, because this was going to be possibly the last time I was ever going to sit on her. And this was a very big event. Everyone was going to turn up to watch one thing. It was going to watch Makybe Diva win the Cox Plate in 2005. Simple as that. There was only one thing that could stop it happening, and that was me. And I felt the pressure like I'd never felt pressure. It was incredible. I had probably 3 or 4 rides before the Cox Plate, and I don't remember riding in those races. I was physically not well because I thought it was getting to me. Tony had got the masks, everyone was wearing their masks. It was Makybe Diva Day. And I used to do this thing before a major, before I'd go out and get on a horse. I'd go into the bathrooms and I'd look myself down the barrel and I'd say, Bossy, you know you can do this job. You know you're on the best horse. You know you can trust yourself to get the job done. And the last thing I'd say to myself, because you can't lie to yourself when you look yourself down the barrel, you cannot lie. I said, and the last thing I'd say to myself, and now relax, relax. And that would be my, and then I'd just go out. That was my trigger. And then I'd walk out there and I was in this state, you know what I mean? I was in my spot. I went into the bathroom that day and I said, have a look at yourself, Bossy. You are losing your shit. And I said, come on, you know you're on the best horse, you know you can trust yourself. And I actually couldn't look myself down the barrel. So I walked away, went and sat down, had a glass of water, I sat down and I walked back in the bathroom and said, okay, this is it, Bossy. You know you're on the best horse, you know you can do this job, and you know you can trust yourself. And I said, for Christ's sake, relax. And then I just went, whew, it just happened. And I walked out and I said to Lee, I said, mate, I'm going to ride her so bad, it's going to be real good. What I was saying was, I'm just going to keep her out of trouble and I'm going to showcase her. She's just going to be too good. She's the best horse in the world at the moment. My job is not disappoint the animal and keep her out of trouble.
Field is ready. Racing in the Cox Plate.
I rode it back. It wasn't going to go on the fence this time. And we weren't to foresee what was actually going to transpire from the 1200 to the 1000 metre. I had no idea this was about to happen, but all I want to do is make sure I'm going to be clean air and go forward whenever I want. We get to the half mile and next thing they start peeling out. And I had a moment where I was thinking, oh my God, what's happening here? What's happening? And in that split second of that moment, I went, oh my God, they've all gone too soon. Everybody in this race has gone too soon.
With Makybe Diva, Fields of Omar, and they're all taking off at the 550 metre mark. A wall of horses around the outside. Coming up to the bend at the 450 metre mark now, Lateria, Fields of Omar, and Makybe Diva joining in on the outside.
It looked like a straight race. There was 10 of us in a row. I think these clowns have all just played into her because she's the strongest and she's the strongest in the race. So, and then she just come out and peeled them.
But it's Makybe Diva in front of Lateria. Fields of Omar coming back in the middle. But Makybe Diva, she's the champ. She wins.
Put them to bed pretty quickly, you know, and won my first Cox Plate. I pulled up and, you know, obviously you do the talk, but I noticed her eye was completely glazed. She hadn't come down to me like normal. Her breathing hadn't come down. And I thought, oh, something's wrong. Something's really wrong here. And I remember going back and I went and did the crowd thing, but the whole time I was thinking, she's not right, she's not right. You know, I did the stupid thing to the crowd because this is probably her final moment. Honestly, I thought this is the last time I'm going to ride her, so I made sure I gave it to the crowd and did all that. I got off and I said, Lee, she's not right, mate. Something's not right, she's gone. I remember he kept walking around, and the girl took over and didn't see her after that. You know, I went from the euphoria of winning the Cox Plate to kind of feeling a bit sad because I thought, well, this is probably the last time I'm going to ride her, you know. Okay, it's been an amazing journey. I won 2 Melbourne Cups, all those good races on, and she's won my first Cox Plate. What more can you ask from an athlete? After that party that night, Lee rang me. He said, Bossy, you've got to get down here on Thursday. I can't tell you what this mare's done. He said, it's put on about 6 kilos. I was expecting to say, mate, it's over. Honestly, I picked up the phone and went, oh no, God, this is the phone call. This is the one. You say, Bossy, she hasn't done well, we'll just quit. You know, she's got 58, we can't do it, right? I got down there to Markdale property on the Thursday and he pulls her out and I went like that. It glowed. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it, right? So he said, listen, you've got to do one piece of work and then you'll put her on the other track and you'll do your other piece of gallop. And it goes up a hill and it finishes on top of and it looks down over the whole property. I did my first piece of work and then I go onto the other track and I do my gallop. It wasn't a strenuous gallop, but it was a nice gallop. And she stood up on top of the hill after the gallop and she went like that. And she just pricked her ears and she looked over the paddock. She surveyed the whole property like that. And I went, wow. I went, wow. I trotted down. Tony's there. And I said, this won't get beat. This will not get beat, mate. This wins Melbourne Cup. And Lee said, whoa. He said, we've got to do one more thing. We're not going there to run second, third, fourth, or any other. We're not going there to do that. We're going there to win. I'm not taking her to the races, and I'm not going to embarrass myself or you or her. We're going there to win. He said, no, we've got to go Derby morning to Mornington. We're going to do a track gallop, and it's going to be like a race day gallop. I'm going to line her up with a partner. It's going to be a solid 2,000 metres. He's thinking, okay, if she's not going to handle that 2,000 metre gallop on Saturday morning, she won't be handling the first Tuesday, 05. Mornington's, you know, it's uphill, short straight. I get to about the 600 metre mark and he gives his other horse, like the partner, a bit of a kick. And all of a sudden I'm 6 lengths away from it. And I went, oh, wow. I know she's going to work good, but it's going to look horrible because this partner, who's a listed horse, is going to beat me in a gallop, right? So I get to the 400 metre mark and she's creeping up. I get to the top of the straight, which is only 300 metres, Mornington. Give her a little feel and she just dropped and went like that. And give that horse 4 length start at the 300 metre mark and beat it too. It was extraordinary. There was people in the stand going, did you get that? I went to bed that night, had the best sleep. I woke up in the morning, I was doing radio. Anyone that wanted to talk to me about the Melbourne Cup that day, I just give them everything. I was so happy and relaxed, you know, because I knew it was going to happen. I just knew it.
Ladies and gentlemen, the field parading for the Emirates Melbourne Cup, being led out by number 1, Makybe Diva, Glen Boss.
She walks out there and she looked like this big, shiny black Bentley that just come out, and she just walked out there first, and she was, oh my, magnificent. Black, shiny, strutted out there, and I thought, wow, wow, look at you, you know, just look at you. And she just looked like someone just put a spotlight on her, you know, because she just glowed. And she just stands there, and I'm taking my hands off the reins and I'm adjusting my goggles, and she's just sitting there standing there like that. Like I'm going back to the place where I was the 2 previous years. She's exactly the same.
Stand by for a start. They're set. Racing in the cup. The black mare Makybe Diva jumped away well. Gray's in, looked a touch.
Jumps well, as she always did. Got to the winning post first time. I'm 3/4 of the way back through the field. The tempo's perfect, and I'm on the fence again. I'm in the exact same spot that I was 2 years previously. This is where you feel that moment, you know, this is extraordinary.
A length and a half further back, Makybe Diva. Back there in company at the 1400 with her is Vinnie Rowe and Hugs Dancer on the outside.
I remember at the 1400 metre mark, there was a shuffle up in front. One had got a heel about 2 or 3 in front of me. The horse beside me went like that, and I went kind of up his bum a bit, and she just collected herself, and she got on the bridle with me, and I went, woo, mum, and she just went like that, and she just went straight back to sleep, like instantly. You know, it was incredible. You know, that could have been a moment where where it all went wrong, but she just collected herself and just put her back to sleep. And I was just going wherever I wanted to. It was incredible. I was just going, okay, I'm there. You know, because you're so into the moment and you can see everything that's happening. And I get to the 400 metre mark and I could see just out of my peripheral vision, there's a run just to my right. I'd come up behind them all, and I went, there's a run right there, and I'm just going to go, okay, I'm going to wait. And then I just went, boom, give one a bit of a shoulder, and then the run presented itself, and now I'm at the 350 metre mark. You know, I'd straightened up by this point, and this is where it all goes crazy, you know, because she just dropped and just went like that.
Here's Makybe Diva. A nation roars for a hero. She's starting to wind up. 300 left to go now. Makybe Diva's racing up. Envoy's trying to go with her. They've got to Portland Singer and Lachlan River. Here comes Like a Belford and Excellent. But Makybe Diva clear with 100 metres to go.
Now I'm winning. There's nothing that's going to pass me. I've gone too fast. You know, it was too quick. And this is where it really got strange for me, because I had a good 20 seconds and I could actually hear the call. When horses gallop, when their first foot hits the ground, it's called breaking stride. So they actually slow down by a couple of kilometres. So in that moment, it's a heartbeat. It's like the noise comes and it stops. So in that moment where you had that pause, I could hear the call. It was unbelievable. I could hear what was going on.
But a champion becomes a legend. Makybe Diva has won it from either Autozone.
All I had to do was just enjoy her and enjoy this moment. And then I'm getting to the winning post, and there's all these shots of me over the last quarter, and my smile gets bigger and bigger as I'm getting towards the line, you know.
Glenn, you've done it. You've written the story. History's there. It'll never be repeated, I don't think. How do you feel?
It's just unbelievable. She just gives you so much confidence, this mare. You just, from the mile, I just knew it was all over it. She just put herself in the spot, switched off. I just talked to her through the race, and she just responded to me so well.
You know the history of the Melbourne Cup. When I went past the post, winning my third one in 05, I had this crazy moment of I felt like Edmund Hillary, who the first one had put that flag in the Everest. That's what I felt like. No one had gone here before, and I had this sense of praise of this athlete underneath me, like feelings for this animal. The most special piece of real estate on this piece of real estate is the clock tower. Cruise around and I take it down the clock tower, and right on cue, I take my hands off the rein and I'm just pointing at her, and she stood there gleaming like a shiny piece of granite, and the veins were popping out, and she stood there with her ears pricked, and she went from one end of the straight to the other like you can't script this stuff. And she just stood there as long as I wanted to stand there, and she went like that. And it's almost like, yeah, they've all come to see me moment. There's a couple of shots from the other side. Not one person was looking the other way. They're all looking one direction, and all there is just me and her. And so you feel like you're a rock star. Then we come back in and all hell breaks loose, and then we stood on the dais, and that beautiful moment when Tony said, and this wasn't spoken about, and he said, she's retired today. And I thought, wow, What a moment, you know.
We all decided after this great race today, she is retired as of today. I think to ask any more of this wonderful mare would not be fair on her and all around her. So thank you very much.
To have an athlete retire at the absolute peak of her powers, she could have went on through the autumn and probably smashed them again. She wouldn't have won another Melbourne Cup, but there was more in the tank. But did we need to do it? No, we didn't. She'd done everything we'd asked and plus, because I had hours on her back. At not one point in any of that time, other than the Cox Plate, where I went, you weren't right. She was on the whole time, never let me down. Incredible. So for her to retire at that moment, where she never let us down, and 120,000 people here, we'll probably never see that crowd again. Greg Miles at his magnificent best, and I've spoken to him about this. If it does happen, what am I going to say to capture that moment when a champion becomes a legend? Because that's what simply happened. You know, she was a champion and now she'd become a legend. That 5-10 second moment when he called that will just stay with me forever. And it'll probably stay with a lot of people, you know, because it was so perfect. So many stories within the story, you know, it's incredible to think that an uneducated kid from Caboolture who quit school before I finished grade 10 had an opportunity later in life to be introduced to this unbelievable athlete, to take me on that journey and basically fulfill all my dreams. You know, every dream you have as a kid is to win a Melbourne Cup. You know, I look at my 3 Melbourne Cups and my first thought is for her. She did that. I was the lucky person that was just able to be introduced to her and was taken on the ride. She did the lot. You know, this is 20 years ago now, right? And I've been doing a lot of guest speaking since. And I take my cups. It's incredible, the amount of time, because I just let people have them. They can have a beer out of them, they do what they want. But the stories that they can tell of where they were, Melbourne Cup Day, when she won not 1, 2, 3, but the last day, they've kept their betting slips. You know, they can tell you exactly what they were doing at that moment. I can sit there and ask them, can you name me 3 Melbourne Cup winners since? And they'll go, ooh, you got me. But I know exactly where I was every time she won the Melbourne Cup. I knew who I was with. You know, that's the impact that she had on so many people. She left a big footprint in our sport. Not only our sport, but in Australia's history, because the Melbourne Cup is intertwined with our history, right? It's the one thing that we all gravitate towards in one moment on Tuesday in November. We all become Australians just for a moment, right? So she left a massive footprint in sport.